Namaste everybody, good evening. I'm Brahmacharya Aditya speaking from Ananda Pune community, and it's my great joy, as many of you know, we have gathered today to celebrate the passing of our founder for Ananda, Swami Kriyananda ji. And it is a very blessed occasion actually. It is, you might say, his passing is the culmination of that which we are all aspiring to. It's a beautiful union, and I'll speak about that. I'll speak about what Swamiji shared. Now, one of the, I've always loved this interface of giving a webinar, but with something of this occasion of Swamiji's passing anniversary, I was just thinking before I came here, I wonder who the audience is on the other side, and I believe most people know Swamiji, maybe many have even met him. But let me begin a step behind from there. I think many people will certainly know Paramhans Yogananda ji. And I want to talk of not Yogananda ji today, but of the principle of how truth, or whatever we call it, higher aspiration or seeking or solution, and ultimately, finding God. They say, Sri Yukteswar ji, Yogananda's guru, he said, finding God is the funeral of all sorrows. That is a very powerful statement, and Swami Kriyananda ji said that when he was seeking the truth in arts, in politics, through drama, through music, through, knowledge, through science, he says it always brought him to a dead end till he read Autobiography of a Yogi, and he says, for the first time I understood what life is about. He met Yogananda ji within a few days after reading that book. Yogananda ji accepted him, and from that point, I think if we study Swamiji's life from that day in 1948 till the passing 2 years ago, you will find there was this man, a disciple, who never ceased to express his gratitude for what had come into his life decades ago in 1948. And I think that is what we all can learn from. That is what his life message is. He kept digging, he kept plumbing. Once, Paramhansa Yogananda ji told Swamiji that all my men disciples, apart from Saint Lin, have disappointed me. And he said, you mustn't disappoint me. Swami later said that he wondered, what that disappointment would be, because so many of them were very wonderful, great souls. Spiritually, Yogananda ji actually had publicly spoken about the stature of some of them. And Swami says, meditating on that statement made me realize that Yogananda ji was expecting, you might say, on some level, or hoping that people would try their best personally also to take this message and make it practical for other people, make it alive for other people, give it the expression. How you might see an avatar is a child of God. He presented the divine truths they presented at an age, at a time, in a country, through a language, through different media, in a way that people can say, oh yes, behind all my seeking, this was that one thing, the bliss, the joy, the freedom, the happiness I'm seeing. This is that one thing which I and everybody else is seeking. And Swami Kriyananda ji, even before he met Yogananda, he said, I had two desires. One, of course, he says, after reading Autobiography, it was crystal clear to me that life should end in God. Paramahansa Yogananda later would tell Swamiji that state, that blessed state of union, of understanding of the whole purpose of, can be found while living. It's called the Jivan Mukta stage. And he says that is quite possible. Then Swamiji says, my other desire was, I wanted to help other people find God. And that was his life message. I was very fortunate a few years ago when Swamiji passed away to go into the funeral services in Assisi, where he left his body. I got a chance to see his body. And I remember the first thing that struck me when I approached the temple to pay my respects was this beautiful aura of peace, which I had never felt to that degree around Swamiji when he was alive. And when I felt that, later I I tried to understand what that was, or what I could take, the message I could take permanently into my mind from that. And it instantly came to me, this is the peace that is felt or attained when one has done that which was asked of him. And you could see there Swamiji, earlier if you had seen him, he was tirelessly, not restlessly, but unceasingly, willingly, expectedly looking forward to this rarest of the rare opportunities. The human mind is so clouded sometimes by restlessness, it doesn't know what's the purpose of life. Everybody is a child of God, Swami used to say, and we must find God. Swamiji took that a step further, and he would share those teachings with different people. He says, above all, he loved God. That was the hallmark, you might say, of his life. Under no circumstances did he ever challenge that or doubt the presence of God. And even when challenging moments came, because they say in spirituality, the scriptures say that as a person grows, so do his tests and troubles. That they do reach a point, they're always at, you might say, near breaking point. And Swamiji was at that point, and each time he pushed the barriers of his joy, of his attainment, of the service that he did for his Guru. What are the lessons that we can take from his life? I think one lesson is that he allowed his Guru, that consciousness of God, which is ever willing to work through us, to flow through him. And Swamiji says that many times I would intellectually understand something that I could do, I should do, and needed to be done. But he says, honestly, I am a frail human person, single person. He says, even as I started on the spiritual journey with enthusiasm, I had always that inner wisdom that I cannot accomplish much in this world. And he says, but whenever I was faced with such a challenge, Swamiji would say, I cannot do it, but God in the form of my Guru can do it through me. And that, he says, would allow the grace to flow. That kept him always close to his Guru, no matter how far he went outwardly in his spiritual service, Likewise, daily meditation. Once somebody came to our community in Pune, and she was saying, I was thinking one morning whether I should energize or not. And she says, when I came out of my apartment, I saw Swamiji was energizing. I think he must have been 84, 85 at that time. Why not? If you're seeking joy, if you're seeking energy, this is how it comes. It was so simple. Swami used to say the spiritual path people, we live in a time when mind rules people's decisions. But he says, remember, reason follows feeling. That if your feelings are clouded, impure, let's say, for whatever reason, you will lead an impure life without realizing you are. So to keep the feeling in the right place, I think the blessing is to get a Guru. And once the Guru is attracted to you, you are attracted to the Guru, then I think the mind should only be used to see if we are doing the will of God. The fruit of that is known by joy. The fruit is known by, expanding happiness and inner freedom, greater strength, faith in the Guru, and on these things we build our life. I want to speak a little bit about Swamiji and also read from this book that was written by him, and I truly believe that, and I encourage you to buy this book, because you see, as I spoke of Yogananda ji materializing in Swamiji's life, when Swami was seeking truth, he was not seeking Yogananda ji, he was seeking truth, and Master came. Likewise, when we are seeking clarity, many of us will relate to the life that Swamiji led and develop our understanding from there. Now, this book was written at Swamiji's request when he was coming to India, and he requested Asha Pravar, one of his earlier secretaries and one of our center leader for many years in Palo Alto, to write a book, a biography maybe, that would help other people understand in India what Swamiji was about, because he had not spent much time over here. So I want to read a few things from this book, and that will help us, understand what Swamiji was. One story I remember over here is a person asking Swamiji that, sir, I have never met you, I don't know anything about you, and how is it that I'm feeling so much love from you? And I don't feel so much love for or even from my own parents, my family. And Swamiji's reply was, he says, you're feeling that love from me because I see God in you, and because I love Him. He says, my love is directed to Him, and that is what I am feeling, that is what I am experiencing, that is what you are also experiencing. And what a beautiful allegory. Another time I remember somebody asking Swamiji during a questionnaire, he says, "Sir, even as I'm asking you some questions, what is it that I'm feeling here in my spine, in my heart, this joyful feeling in my, forehead?" And Swami simply replied, he says, "It's love." And then he went on to, speak to another person and answer other questions. That what a beautiful way to live life. He had developed that. Jyotishji, who's our Dharmacharya at present, he was saying that Swamiji's defining feature was his commitment to truth and then his commitment to sharing it. That he was always going back and forth between these two things till in the end they became one. He was seeing God in others, he was serving God in others, he was willing to stay as long as Master provided him the energy to serve and go on from there. I'd like to also read this other story. It's called "Let Him Take It." The money, Swamiji says over here, Ashaji says, belonged to Ananda, but the man had access to it. It was more than $10,000. A lot of money by any measure, but especially in the earlier years of Ananda, when every dollar had to do the work of 10. This was in the beginning when 1969 when it was started and such. And Swamiji, when he started this community, he worked so hard. He says at sometimes he was going in 5 different cities on 5 different days. You wonder sometimes how he had so much energy. And he says that was because of the joy I felt. And he says it would be channeled as enthusiasm to share this simple understanding. You see, the spiritual path, now when we talk of reincarnations, it can seem very long. But Master says that's because we make it long. Now isn't that a sweet at the same time scary concept? And Swami said when he realized God was so close and he had the energy to share, he said, I simply wanted to let people know that, all you have to do, you have to lead the same life, but with a, twist, let's say greater understanding, a slight change of attitude, a redirection of your energy. People give so much energy to things which are perishable in this world, including their own selves. But Swami says through this body, everlasting joy can be found, and that was his attempt. So in the beginning, he used to, as I said, go to these different cities and share. And once somebody asked him in Mumbai, a journalist, that, "Sir, how has the direction of your spiritual life been? How has it been? Can you define us? Can you tell us something about it?" And Swamiji says, "Well, my life has been diametrically opposite than the average or the ordinary seeker." He says because he came to the path at such a ripe stage of spiritual evolution. He says he had hardly any desires. He says, I just didn't know what to live for. He was from a wealthy family. He was quite skilled in whatever he was doing. But just, that clarity was not, he just didn't know what life was there to offer and such. So at some point, Swamiji says that he started redirecting. He says, he told Master, I want to be a hermit. But Yoganandaji said, you've been that too many times in the past. This time you have a great work to do for God and for me. On one Christmas evening, Master even told Swamiji, after he had addressed many other people and told them of their spiritual attainments that would come in this life, and he turned to Swamiji and he didn't define it, but he simply said, quite separately, he says, Walter, that's how Master used to call Swamiji. He says, Walter, remember, God will you must work very hard, and then Divine Mother will bless you very much. And Swami says, on some level, I was so delighted that he had said those words, he had not defined it in any way. Because who are we? Once somebody came to Yoganandaji and said, Sir, will I become a Jivan Mukta or a Param Mukta? And Master said, why don't you leave that to God? Love Him. Prove yourself to Him. Somebody once came to Yoganandaji, he said, we are not austere enough. We don't do too much of fasting and this and that. And Master says, when God gives, if you can take, that will be your austerity. And Swamiji's life was like that. Actually, Yoganandaji had told him in this life not to fast. And Swamiji, whenever challenges came, lawsuits came, he said he always saw it as Divine Mother trying to play out her Leela for maybe a greater lesson for other people. But he went through it joyfully. He calmly accepted it. He calmly accepted betrayal from so many fronts. And Swami also said that when Master told him you have a great work to do, that's where he left it. And I think, when we understand truly, even momentarily in our heart, what God is, for the person of ordinary intelligence, it does not take much to realize where his life should be headed from there on. But then Swami says to explain to others in different stages of life and walks of life how they can redirect their aspiration was the challenge that Swamiji had. Come inside. That's the challenge Swamiji had. And Swami says that, for example, he wrote this book, Out of the Labyrinth. And Swami says, anyone who comes to our ashram seeking does not need that book mostly. But he says, it took me 16 years to write it. And I'll be very happy if people read that book and they understood where an ordinary person's consciousness can be, or how convoluted it can become when we do not address it with the higher thinking. Anyway, I'll come to this story. That was a big detour from there. That this was the beginning days of Ananda, and somebody had 10,000 rupees he had given to Ananda but now wanted it back. Now, he was an old friend of Swamiji, and so it was up to Swamiji to decide what to do. If he takes the money, Swamiji said, don't interfere, just let him have it. There is no point in trying to explain to him why he shouldn't. He has it all worked out in his own mind and he wouldn't understand. Maybe later he'll see what he has done and return it to us. But whatever happens, I refuse to let money get in the way of my friendship with him. Many people choose money over friendship. I place friendship higher than money. This whole world is consciousness, and if our consciousness is right, everything else will follow. We don't have to be concerned. Where there is dharma, there is victory. If the money is meant to be ours, it will find its way to us by some other route. And I was sharing with some friends how I saw personally the working of this in his life once. We did a big event in Pune, in Mumbai, a few years ago when Swamiji released the book, The Biography. And I was involved with that with some other people. We were going to Mumbai and making this event happen. And we ended up, knowingly, spending a huge amount of money, which was thankfully coming to our supply or to our disposal, because Swamiji had just invested his house. He had sold his house in Gurgaon. He was placing it in Pune, the money. And at that time, after the event, Swamiji met with a person, and the person gave him a check of 50 lakhs. Now this was a very big amount to receive, and Swamiji later told me, he says, I got this check of 50 lakhs, and which was almost double the amount that we had spent, and it came within a few days. And he says, I am thinking I'll publish 3 of my books through this, and then also take a small vacation. What do you think? And some of us were there. He said, this sounds like a wonderful idea. That his way of working, his way of, I wouldn't even say attracting. He was not even thinking of attracting anything. His whole focus was on sharing joy. Many people, think that joy can take us only inward. Well, they fail to realize that joy by its very nature is also expansive impersonally. So as much as it shares, there's no personal motive over there. Now you can share emotionally, personally, with deep interest that this is what I want to do. But look at Swami, he says, I didn't want to do anything. I wanted to become a hermit. And then Master told him, no, you will have to write books, edit many of my books, and go about that. He also knew so many languages. So Swamiji ended up doing different languages. At one time he was telling a disciple, he says, I hardly rest in the way that, some of the other thought just pops in my mind, and what do I do after that? He says, when I was writing Time Tunnel, I thought I had finished the book and it was already in print, till he said it struck me that the pyramids will look beautiful the way they originally were, with limestone. And he says, to make that effect of limestone and make them smooth, I had to place a shadow on that limestone so people could understand that they are really smooth and not, twisted. He says, but then what can fly so high in those times? He says, I needed to put a UFO. For the UFO, I had to write a new chapter. And I tied it in such a way that it all seemed very interesting and still very much in the flow of the topic of the book, Time Tunnel. And he says, and then I was thinking, why did I have to do so much? He says, for the simple thought that it could have made the story more deep, more lucid, more beautiful. The cover could have come more beautiful. He says, so his way was like that. I don't remember which book it was. Swamiji was once suggesting, telling us that there was another monk in the monastery with Paramahansa Yogananda ji, and this monk he was so content, you might say, maybe that's not the right word, but he was indifferent. Yeah, that's the word. He just, if master gave him some work, he would do it, but there was no personal creativity or interest over there that I should maybe do it this way, I should do it good for master. You know how in India they say, if you're going to see your guru, you take the best things for him, masters wrote a prayer, I will spend for God the way I spend for myself. So we're not thinking of ourselves, but we are making it the best possible thing for our teacher, for our guru. And Swami says master would give him some work and he would finish it, but there was no beauty. There was no inspiration in that work. And Swamiji said, if he gave me even the smallest work, I would do it with such zeal, so much involvement of other people, with so much creativity, so much thought and meditation would go into it, that I would look at this other monk and feel envious. And I would sometimes say how blissful he is in his carelessness. But it's only those who have energy that God chooses to express himself energetically. On another occasion, we might see how Swami Kriyananda ji was such a unique and different disciple. Everybody, God plays through them uniquely, but he just played astoundingly through Swami Kriyananda, I can say. When he passed away, I was with a long-term devotee in Mumbai, and she simply said, he was one of his kind. Really made me think he was one of his kind. Everyone is, but how specially he was, how lovingly he served Yogananda ji, how personally, just truly like a child of God, truly like a child of Guru. Wherever Yogananda ji would go, people would call him Choto Mahashaya, little sir. Wherever Swamiji used to go for Anand Mohima, to see other saints, to see Yogananda ji when he was alive, Master used to say, you're like my son. Anand Mohima used to call him Choto Chela, that you're my little son, you're like my little Chela. Very sweet, what a sweet relationship. But Swamiji, he once said it the best way it can be said. He says, Kriyananda is an event for which I am responsible. What responsibility he took of that event which passes absent-mindedly in people's lives. They could go through life thinking it has nothing to offer. They have nothing to offer. But Swamiji said, I had the grace like everybody, but I always invited that grace. I worked through that. Swamiji, you can look at, Paramahansa Yogananda ji had written a few books and he had given a few lectures. I think about 9 to 10 of them are available in public domain. And when Master passed away, Swamiji says there was truly a serious thought among the close disciples that they should all shut down everything that there is, or maybe give it in some other devotees' hands and go to the Himalayas. They thought they'll deepen their meditation there, they will find God, which is what Master urged. But Swamiji said, he said, I told them, but he said, I came to change civilization. Then he said, he told me to write books. And others looked at him and they said, what books? All the books that needed to be written are there. Otherwise, Master would have written them. Then Swamiji told, Daya Mata once, he says, Master told me I have a great work to do. She says, we all have a great work to do. And Swami says, they never understood how I, like everybody, had to uniquely express him. And ultimately he was expelled from that organization, which on some level was a blessing for us all, because we can see in our lives now, and that's God's Leela, no? It is a teaching for everybody who comes after that, how we can limit truth and make that a habit. Well, friends, the story is never about what we like, because our likes can give us happiness, which people interpret as joy. Many people drink because they think, oh, I am free when I do these things. Swamiji said, I had realized there was nothing I could accomplish in my life worthwhile if it was not my Guru's will. So for him, when he asked some devotee in SRF at that time, when are we going to start communities? They said, frankly, we're not interested. He says, how is your or my interest even the matter? The Guru has given us some advice, a work, a mission. In fulfilling that, we will find liberation. In fulfilling that, we will find greater happiness. We will share his light. And I think that is what Swamiji did. He didn't go by the letter of Master. He meditated, you might say, on the letter, on the word, on the spoken suggestion, and then he felt, he experienced the joy of doing it this way or the other. One of our acharyas once had a dream in which she saw that Master was standing. We call Paramahansa Yogananda Ji Master. Maybe I'm too late in telling that. But he was standing on one side and with a lot of light emanating from him, around him. And everybody, all disciples were running towards him, everybody. And they were running and they were falling, and then they would get up and somebody would take more time than others. But they were all running and they were all entering that big light and becoming one with it. And when she told this dream to Swamiji, he says, "Was I there?" She said, "What, sir? Yes, you were there. You were running in the front with many others, and we were all there." And he says, "Did I fall?" She says, yes, you fell too. But he says, "You were the one who got up the most quickly, brushed your clothes, and you ran again. And seeing you," she says, "many ran behind you." What a beautiful way. I think of that as the epitome. Somebody was saying Swamiji was so childlike. You cannot decipher those things intellectually. He was childlike because he truly saw himself as a creation of God, placed here amidst delusion, amidst Satan, you might even say, by God's will to develop himself, to strengthen himself, to accomplish it by utilizing the divine friendship and parenthood offered by the Guru. And he went in that direction. Friends, often somebody once asked him in Pune, "Have you seen God?" That on some level, I later realized, is besides the point. It has been the point for many saints. It is the whole crux of the spiritual search. But how is that answer going to help you, the person who is asking? Swamiji actually replied back to that person. He says, "No," but he says, "But I see him in you." And he says, "But I feel his presence with me all the time." What a beautiful answer. Even when we are seeking personal answers, you might say, ultimately they say even consolation outwardly, it is a sign of, seeking a certain thing outside of ourselves. Whereas I think through Swamiji, he appreciated divine friendship, human friendship, loyalty. He really said that was the first law of God. And once I remember him saying, in a satsang, he says, "In this life, I have not worked with those who have not understood the mission, neither those who have been negative." Made me realize of the pains he must have gone in past, trying to explain it to others who ultimately did not understand. So he says, "This life I worked," as my Guru said, "with those who were like-minded." That is what we should do. And never feel for a moment that you have been abandoned. I'll share this story and I'll close with that. And if you have any questions, by the way, if some of you are really new, you can send those questions and maybe I'll take them. When Swamiji passed away, many beautiful things happened. I'll share 2 or 3 of them because they were told to me firsthand by people. Swamiji's house, there was a garden where one of our long-term members, his own personal gardener, would go and just water every day. And that day he went, and even as he was going, his heart was so full. By the way, Swamiji left at around 8:30 a.m. morning, Italian time. And when this person went there, he couldn't water. And then he made an extra effort and he tried to water. And when he went near Swamiji's room, where Swamiji ultimately left his body, such tears started coming to him that he left the hose and he told somebody, "I cannot work today. I don't know what, something is happening in that room." And he felt he couldn't contain that joy. Later, a few days later, when Swamiji's astral ascension ceremony was done, one of our devotees who was in the temple later got a call from his friend. He says, "Where are you?" He says, "In the community." He says, "Please take a look. I think your temple is on fire." He says, "How can that be? I'm in the temple." He says, "You're in the temple?" He says, "And what is this big light, flame almost, that is shooting from the top of the temple into the sky?" And this friend came out and he couldn't see the light, but some people could. That Swamiji's soul was probably ascending for the final time. Likewise, the sweetest of these was, a lady said that she wanted to get a spiritual name from Swamiji, and it was pertaining to peace, which she was aspiring for. But she met Swamiji a few days before he left his body, and he spent a lot of time with them. They were very long-term members of our community in Assisi, and he spent time, he was thanking them for the initial few years where they went through so many challenges. Their children were delivered in that community. They started the school when their children came. So Swami was having a deep friendship with them. And in all that talk, she forgot to ask for a spiritual name. And then a few days later, Swamiji left his body. Now, when she was meditating next to his body, which was kept for people to come and pay their respects, she said at midnight on the second day, a electric blue light came from the coffin to her heart and mind, and she said, I saw Swamiji smiling on the other side of that tunnel of light. And she didn't open her eyes because she was seeing everything in the vision. And he says, Shanti Ma. She wondered who that is. He says, Shanti Ma. And she says, are you talking to me? And he says, of course. And he says, you didn't guess this one, did you? And he burst into laughter. And then he left. He went back, the light ended. And next morning I think our community, somebody called out to her. Her name is Graziella. He said, Graziella. And for some errand, and she says, you know, my spiritual name is Shantima. And the person said, but who gave you that name? She says, yesterday night Swamiji gave it to me. And that was quite a big story to share. And for a moment, Shantima felt that was not the right thing she did. So she went back into meditation and prayed to Swamiji to guide her if she did the wrong thing. She said, he instantly came back and he said, you did the right thing. And he says, but I want you to share with others one more thing, that just as I came to you, I can come and help each one of them, but they have to call out to me, otherwise I cannot come. And what I found in those words was, he didn't say I will not come, he said I cannot come. Actually, he ended that vision by saying, tell them that is the divine law. We come to know, or we define life by so many outer circumstances and things that happen to us. I think like Swamiji, who came to realize in 1948 when he read the book Autobiography, that above everything else that exists in this world exists also amidst us the law of God. For they who have the eyes and the ears, like Jesus said, they will hear, they will know. If we are not finding it, maybe we are not seeking it properly. So we should attempt that. We should. And Swami used to say, actually, he says, that will be a proof that God does not exist if he does not come to help you. He says, you always say, he's testing me, he's testing me. He says, why don't you test him? Put out a sincere effort and prayer and see if he does not come. He comes in equal measure, actually, Swami would say. So let's go with that. Let's hold Swamiji in our heart. And I pray that he bless us always, for we are all his children. Joy to you. I think we have some questions.
How can we feel the Guru's love in our heart?
How can we feel Guru's love in our heart? Well, first of all, know that he loves you. In the beginning, we may not feel it. Maybe he has come to you through somebody's voice, through a book, through a teaching, through a television program. That shows his keen interest in entering windows that have been opened to him. Remember that story where Master was told by a lady to help her son, and for years he tried, and the little boy each time would cry, and even as he grew up he was not interested. Ultimately Master gave him a small jet plane and the boy became a jet pilot and he was happy. And Master told his mother, you know, I tried, but he just wasn't open. If we open ourselves, he will come. How do we feel his love? I think we should understand that first of all, his love will come to us, and that's a very personal extension of his interest, but it should be seen impersonally, in that he does not have anything which is expected of us. In the Bhagavad Gita, Swamiji says, many people don't even feel God's presence in this world, but look at the saints. They say, any amount of suffering is worth it, Lord, because they love him. Swami says in that book, God's love can be felt in your heart to the degree you have first offered yourself unconditionally to him. And that explains it. Try chanting. Try to read some of Swamiji's books. Swamiji himself worked through chanting to develop devotion and love for God. And also Swamiji used to tell people, pray to God sincerely. Pray to Guru, I should say over here. Help me feel love for you. And I think he will not ignore that.